Hello, everyone. Welcome to our lecture on the future of food and sustainability. I am your Professor Reena Randir. Let's look at some of the most important learning outcomes in this lecture. I hope you understand that the current food system is facing a lot of challenges because it is not sustainable. We'll talk about a new concept that we haven't spoken about. It's called circular food systems. There is this demand for alternate protein sources with a low carbon footprint. And we look at some of those, the importance of a plant-based diet over animal, and some future trends like cell-based agriculture, 3D printed foods, genetic engineering like CRISPR. We'll also discuss briefly the role of technology in sustainable agriculture and briefly on functional foods. So the increase in world population, the projection says that it will reach about 9.6 billion people by 2050. And if the population increases, the demand for food is also going to increase tremendously. In other words, we have to double the food supply in order to feed the population by 2050. And the current food system has a negative impact. It's not sustainable. We've seen in earlier lectures, almost a fourth of the green gas emissions come from the food systems. And the problem being the availability of land and resources, we already have saturated out that. We are cutting down more and more trees to produce food. So a sustainable food system has to address the current negative impacts that we are having on food production. And another thing is there's a lack of knowledge and resources for sustainable food production. So here in this graph, you can see among all the agricultural land we have, 3/4 of it goes to livestock production. But it only provides 17% of the calories. And it's this that is producing a lot of greenhouse gases. Another important concept when we think about the future of food is that according to the World Health Organization, the global obesity rates have increased tremendously since 1975. It's by eating the wrong foods, mainly. And if 1.9 billion adults are estimated to be overweight and millions to be obese, and then I read another report saying like currently there are about 2 billion people who are malnourished and 2 million who are overnourished. Here, when we think about food, in general, we only consider the taste of the food, the cost of the food, and the convenience. And we do think about health, but as a humanity, we should also think about the sustainability of the food source. The ethics of food, which refers to the moral principles and values that guide our decisions and actions that is related to food production, distribution, consumption, or even waste management. Some of the ethics also include, food safety, animal welfare, labor rights, fair trade, and access and equity to food. So this high increase in obesity in the current years has put a huge burden on the healthcare system because it does lead to cardiovascular disease, hypertension, diabetes, the convenience foods. So the future food that everybody wants will have all these concepts. It will be tasty, it will be cheap, it will be fast food and convenient, and sustainable, resilient, with ethics, and full of health benefits. It's the dream of the food of the future. This is the global food waste that we've already seen. Um, Food waste is contributing to climate change a lot. About 40% of the food that we make is wasted. This production and disposal of food is creating a lot of green gas emissions that is contributing to global warming and climate change. So when we say we are wasting 30 to 40% of the food that is made, we are wasting resources, precious resources like land and water. And our efficiency must come here, and we have to find ways to reduce food waste. What is a sustainable and a healthy food system? So, sustainable means it has to meet the requirements of today without compromising future generations. That is what sustainability is. What we enjoy now should be available for the future generations. And one of the biggest problems, so you can see the different facets of the healthy, sustainable food system. And one of the biggest problems right now is the current dietary patterns in the world and in USA is very inconsistent with the dietary guidelines that is set forth by the governments. So as another facet is a sustainable health system, food system will promote a nutrient dense dietary pattern for optimal health. And this developing a sustainable food system that is optimal will require multi-level innovation approaches like global, federal, state, the food industry. Like every step of the food production has to be accounted for. It's very complex. Some of the Even though this lecture says future of foods, most of it is already here. We already are in the transition. We have a lot of innovative food production systems. There's artificial intelligence that's involved, smart sensors and robotics used in agriculture in order to optimize the production conditions, to reduce waste, and to produce more. You probably are familiar with hydroponics, especially the vertical growing systems. So we're producing more in a small space, and the water is reused, and we are producing more. So here are the pros and cons that's listed in the table. So we are cultivating plants without using soil, and the water is reused, thereby the water footprint is very low. So we can do hydroponics even in like abandoned factories like they do in Springfield here. And aquaponics is when you combine it by growing fish. So fish is grown in tanks, and the nitrogenous waste is used as fertilizer for these hydroponic plants. And that is also very beneficial for the environment. And here there is aeroponics, where the water is sprayed onto the roots, which is also very efficient method of growing plants. Some of the examples of future of foods is like a growing awareness. People are becoming more and more aware of the influence of our diet on climate change, and people are becoming more aware for the need for food sustainability and the need for optimal nutrition for optimal health. And let's talk about some of the concepts that's shown here. So consumer acceptance of emerging food trends are changing. So people are more into plant-based foods, alternative protein sources like insect proteins, cultured meat, 3D printed foods, gene editing for food production. So here in this graph here, uh, the orange are some of the future foods. Cultured meat. So these future foods are more ethical and more sustainable, and it's also good for you. Protein from fungus is called mycoproteins, algae, chlorella spirulina. So we look at alternate food sources. And the good thing is you can see how most of them, for example, the cultured meat, the mycoprotein, kelp. Have you heard of a kelp burger or steak? Larvae, mussels. So they all have a very low carbon footprint. They are very good for the environment. Whereas when you compare it with beef and pork, it is bad for the environment. I want you to be familiar with the concept of synthetic biology. So, what is sympathetic? Not sympathetic, synthetic biology is how we can improve food production by engineering crop for better yield, nutritional value, or pest resilience. So we saw this as genetically modified crops is one of them. Designer microbes that can create certain proteins or enzymes, vitamins, or some component of the food industry. So here you can see traditional agriculture, and the one in blue is how you can produce similar things but in a lab. The benefit would be a very low carbon footprint. Here's an example of cellular agriculture. So, what is cellular agriculture? Is producing agricultural products in a lab. One good example is like lab grown meat. So, what they'll do is here are the stem cells from an animal, and then you provide the right conditions for that cell to grow. So, the cell has differentiated into like a muscle protein, and then that is the basis for lab grown meat. So the carbon footprint is very low for cultured meats. And very similarly, you can also clone the gene of interest. So the animal protein gene can be inserted in either yeast or bacteria, and it's genetically modified. And then you allow it to grow in a bioreactor, giving the optimal nutrient conditions. And you can make all the uh, basic ingredients for making cheese or milk or eggs. Animal free dairy products, animal free egg products are all possible by this technology. So, this is a very good alternative using a cell culture technology. So, here's the flow chart of how this all happens. So, the gene is cloned and the cells are cultured in a nutrient rich medium. And then it can form the ingredients for making either milk or cheese, ice cream, eggs, and so forth. Another good example of reducing a carbon footprint is now we've seen examples of the Impossible Burger we saw last class. And here's a Beyond Burger. This is fully plant based by using uh, like vegetarian ingredients like peas and potato starch and coconut oil, but it's made to taste just like a real meat burger. But here you can see it uses 99% less water and land. So the water footprint is very low. Carbon footprint is low. Green gas emissions is low. So this is very environmentally friendly, especially like in USA. Um, uh, the love for burgers is intense. So this is a sustainable way to enjoy burgers. Mycoprotein is referring to protein from fungi. Myco means fungus. So here the filamentous fungi called Fusarium. So they are using the agricultural waste to form a medium on which this filamentous fungi can grow, and then it has the texture and the taste of real meat. And also here is an example, yeast is also grouped under fungus. So here there's an example of how the milk protein, casein, can be cloned, the gene can be cloned into yeast, and yeast is grown in a reactor, and then it makes the ingredients for making ice cream. So that is mycoproteins. 3D printed foods is becoming more popular now. It's a very innovative technology. I've heard of how there are many restaurants that serving 3D printed foods. Here are the pros and cons. One of the big pros is personalized nutrition. They can make the food specific for specific needs. And sustainability. They can use ingredients that are sustainably resourced, environmental friendly ingredients. And you can try out new flavors and textures and intricate designs. Here's a 3D printing machine. It's a very innovative technology. It is also a very creative and culinary experience. You can design food. It uses less water, energy and water compared to traditional food preparation. And consumer preference for alternate proteins like protein powder from insects. You might be hesitant to eat insects, but now if it's one of the ingredients here, people don't mind it. Some of the common products are listed here. Chocolates and candies and pizza are already being designed by 3D printing. This is genetically modified foods. CRISPR is clustered regularly interspaced short palindromic repeats. So this is a technology for inserting specific gene at a specific loci in the genome. And this can address food security, or we can produce crops that are resistant to diseases. We can increase food production. We can extend the shelf life of foods. So there are so many benefits. This is kind of like the future of food. We can even improve the nutritional value of food by we can increase certain vitamins or minerals in the food. We can create new food products that is not actually found in nature. We can reduce food waste by extending the shelf life, by slowing down the ripening process. In other words, CRISPR can revolutionize the future of foods by creating more sustainable foods, nutritious and innovative foods. It's a huge boon for humanity. What are functional foods? I want you to be aware of that word. These are foods that will provide additional health benefits beyond basic nutrition. It's also like sold under terminologies like fortified, enriched, enhanced foods. So they are enriched with certain bioactive components that is very good for health. Maybe added fiber for digestion, or vitamin C, or like other vitamins for immunity and cardiovascular health. Some good examples would be probiotics, or omega-3 fatty acid enriched eggs, fortified cereals. Some of the functional foods are also marketed as medicinal foods or nutraceuticals. So this is also very important. I want you to be aware of the circular food system. So this is like a no waste economy. The economy right now, we have to transition from a linear economy to a closed or circular economy. So here, this involves designing a economy where like the waste of one system will be the end of one system, or the waste products will be the beginning products of the next system. So this will is actually aiming to minimize waste and to promote resource efficiency. So here it is a closed loop where the waste and byproducts of one part of the food system becomes the input of the next part of the system. So this is a circular or regenerative system, is very environment friendly. So this transition has to happen as soon as possible if we are going to meet the reduction in carbon dioxide demands. So here the last concept I want to leave you with is this One Health concept, showing when we protect Mother Earth and the animals, we protect our health also. In other words, when we protect one, we protect all. So this approach put forth by the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, the World Organization of Animal Health, the United Nations Environment Program, World Health Organization, all of them came together to come up with this concept map here. So this is a integrated and a unifying approach for optimal health of the people, animals, and the ecosystem, because we are all interconnected. So in order to accomplish this, of course, it is a collaborative effort, multidisciplinary effort. So this recognizes the interconnectedness of humans, animals, and the environmental health. So it is considering the impact of our dietary patterns and our care of the animals of the world, both wild and domestic, in order to maintain a healthy planet and a healthy human being. Education is important, outreach, and to promote awareness campaigns in order to achieve One Health is very, very important. So you can see communication, collaboration, all play a huge role, because when you say One Health, it is the health of the planet, the human health, and animal health. So they all go hand in hand. So the main summary for this short lecture is that food sustainability is a key challenge now and in the future. So as the population is growing and climate change is accelerating and resource depletion is happening, we have to find a way to shift to a circular economy and have a consumption pattern that is good for the environment, animals, and human population. So in order to ensure a secure and sustainable food, innovative solutions like regenerative agriculture, precision farming, alternative proteins, and reducing our food waste is very, very important. A very good thing to consider is a diet based on plants and alternative plant sources, which is gentle on the environment. And we talked about cell-cultured meat and insects. Eating predominantly a vegetarian diet is not only good for the environment, but also for our health. And I hope this was helpful.